Hey guys, and welcome back to another episode of the Truth Talk podcast. My name's Alex Zach, your host, and today I actually brought on Matthew Johnston, a 16-year-old entrepreneur from Australia. He's actually scaled multiple agencies to over 10K a month. So today I just wanted to talk to him sort of about how he's gotten to where he's at now and his story behind everything. So if you guys found value in this video, feel free to drop a like and subscribe. It means a lot to me, and I would greatly appreciate it if you do it. So without further ado, let's get right into the video. Welcome back to another episode of the Truth Talk podcast. Today I'm here with Matthew Johnson. If you want to go ahead and introduce yourself for the people that don't know you.
Yeah, hello everyone. I'm Matthew Johnson. I'm 16. I'm from Sydney, Australia. I own SSS, which is basically like a one-to-one mentorship system. I started around probably 18 months ago now, and I've just been like on that journey. And right now, doing one-to-one mentorship for like beginners in the agency space. And that's basically where I currently am right now.
Awesome. And for those of you who don't know, Matthew does have a personal brand on Instagram, which will be linked in the description of this video that you guys can go check out. And Matthew, you're also 16. So kind of how did this all start?
Well, to be fair, I'm almost 17, but I still got a
Okay.
couple of days, so you can still use 16 for the clickbait. But probably about like 18 months ago, I started with all the like the self-improvement stuff. I'm big on that. You can see like habit trackers here and here. I love that stuff. But like probably 18 months ago, 20 months ago, I was, full degenerate, full big loser, like video games, smoking, alcohol, all that shit. And it was really crazy. I stumbled across like, Hamza or like Hamza's self-improvement, everything like that. And then from him, I found that one, I'm sure everybody watching knows it, that one Iman Gaji video that's got like 7 million views, like the best business model to start
Yeah.
2024. I stumbled across that, and literally from there, I fell down the rabbit hole in like around January of 2023, so like a year ago, and built my agency. I was in the gym niche, and I hit around 10K per month in Australian in AUD in
Mm.
around August, September.
Yeah.
And from the start, I always had the goal to kind of do like one-to-one, kind of do more coaching. I didn't know if that was going to be for gyms or if I was going to like kind of do synthesizing and do it for agency owners. But then around 10K, I decided like I was gonna more or less drop that, offboard all the clients to a different agency, and start the one-to-one coaching. And from there, I built a product, started the one-to-one, and my goal long term, like I kind of have it planned out of in terms of what I want to do. So
Yeah.
right now I'm signing clients for one-to-one. That's nice, and making around $6,000-7,000 per month in Australian dollars, which is like 5K per month probably USD. And the cool thing is that it's coaching, so it's like it's information. So if I make 5K per month USD, I make 5K per month profit USD. So
Yeah.
there's really no expenses, and my only expenses go high level, and then I have affiliates. So go high level pays me more than I pay it, right? And
Mhm.
so right now, doing the one-to-one stuff, and then as I'm doing that, I'm building a V2 product, and then eventually, in around probably around April, I'll launch that as like a school community, and I'll move from
Mhm.
one-to-one to a community, and that's kind of what I'm going to use to scale to like 50, 80, 100K per month.
Awesome. And kind of how did that change happen, right? I know you said you were with the agency. How does that kind of occur? Why did you want to make that switch to one-to-one?
Great question. It's actually probably different than what most people would say. Like even before I started the agency, it was always my goal. I always
Mhm.
knew I was gonna, switch. I knew I was gonna be done for you to kind of get proof of concept and show that like if you're a beginner and you're just starting out, who are you to charge 1K per month for coaching and like
Yeah.
guarantee all the shit when you haven't done it yourself, right? I
Mhm.
basically wanted to like do it myself. And then it was always my goal to either go to like coaching for gym owners or coaching for agency owners and just do everything. I knew I could get way better results for agency owners because like I've been an agency owner, I haven't been a gym owner. And so
Mhm.
made the one-to-one system for agency owners, and like it was really a lot of people kind of like change sporadically, and I hate that, right? You want to have depth of expertise in your niche. You don't want to like just like if people change, most of the time they have shiny object syndrome, right?
Mhm.
My goal going into this wasn't to have shiny object syndrome. Like my goal from the start was to eventually switch to one-to-one.
Awesome. And I guess why is it that you like one-to-one so much? Is it because of that like connection? Is it because you like giving out information? I mean, why one-to-one?
Great question. It's really proof of concept. because like, I like long term, like 30, 50 years from now, kind of have a vision on what I want to do.
Mm.
And to to scale to like 50, 80, 100K per month, I'm going to do that through like the school community, which is like, the normal route that most people are doing. But before that, when I'm building my main product, which is going to take me like 3, 4 months,
Mm.
first of all, I want like cash flow. I want like revenue so I can, keep myself afloat. And that's pretty easy with one-to-one. And second of all, like the results are crazy because it's one-to-one. It's not like 200 other people that I have to cater to. I'm only taking on like 15 people. And so for these 15 people, I can be active talking to them, and I can like, pretty easily and pretty well get them results.
Mm.
And so like one-to-one, just it's fun, cash flow, and results that I can leverage for when I, do launch the school community.
Yeah, and for people watching this, I feel like, and you can correct me if I'm wrong with this, but I feel like to do one-to-one, you have to have some sort of results in the past, right? You need to have sort of proof that you can do the work, right? Because who's going to hire you if you haven't done that, right? I know you kind of mentioned that. So why is it that, you want to build out this community? You think is that's the best way to scale for you, or you rather than doing like an agency model or anything like that?
Yeah, it's really, like I said before, it was kind of like the long-term vision. Like
Mhm.
I've
Mhm.
always been trying to think long-term and think like, even when I was just starting the agency, thinking about what I'm going to do 10 years from now, right?
Mhm.
And so I always like to think long-term, and it's always been the goal for me because I know that's probably it's the highest leverage thing that I can do to scale. In terms of one-to-one, it's actually interesting that you mentioned that. The way that I'm trying to, that's definitely like a limiting belief I might have used to have, but I'm trying to
Mhm.
overcome that right now because like I'm understanding that when it comes to converting, obviously getting client, they need confidence, and
Yeah.
confidence comes 60% from your offer, so like having a grand slam offer, 20% from your conviction, and 20% from social proof.
Mhm.
And I would honestly say that you can get away if you just have a grand slam offer, like if you guarantee 0 to 10K per month in 6 months, like full refund plus 3K or whatever, and like it's legally binding, then you don't even need to have done that, right?
Yeah.
But if you can, all it's going to do is improve confidence. And if you have more conviction, it's going to improve confidence. If you have more social proof, it's going to improve the confidence. But if you like are just starting out, and maybe you're doing done for you or done with you if you're doing coaching, all you need is your offer. Really, if you have an amazing like maxed out grand slam offer, that's 60%, like just 60% of the way there. Another 20% conviction. If you have utmost conviction that it will work, which is hard to do, which is hard to get if you haven't already done it. But if you can like create that, instead of having conviction in your services, having conviction in yourself, and you know that you will go to like the end of the earth to deliver the services. If you have these two, you're already 80% of the way there. And most people will convert at 80% confidence. They'll be like the people who need 100%, and for that, social proof, which if you're a beginner, you don't have. But if you have grand slam offer plus high levels of conviction, you don't even need like social proof, and you don't need to have done it yourself.
Yeah, no, that's a really good point. And another thing that I want to point out with that, right, is social proof can also sort of be your personal brand, right? If you have content out there, you have even if it isn't too many followers, if people can click on your page and see that you have good informational content, that's huge, right?
Yeah.
So that's another thing I kind of want to talk about. How did you start building your personal brand? How did that come along?
It's interesting that you say personal brand because the way that I see it is a bit different.
Mm.
I I wouldn't call it like a personal brand. I wouldn't call myself like an influencer. I would I see posting content as a system or a vehicle for booking more appointments. The end goal obviously is book more appointments, close more clients. And so the same way that I would do cold DMs to book appointments,
Yeah,
it's just a system. It's another system for booking meetings. So like
yeah,
the YouTube channel, like there's a Calendly link in the description. On the Instagram, there's like Calendly link in the link tree. I try and like frame it because I don't want to like delude myself and let my ego get in the way and like become like an influencer and like start making like vlogs and shit. I want it to be a system for booking meetings. And so I got into that just because like long term inbound is the play. Like 18 months from now, 2 years, 3 years from now, inbound is the thing that's going to be exponential. Outbound and paid ads are linear, right? If I do 100 cold DMs, I book 3 meetings. If I spend $100 on ads, I book 2 meetings, right? But with inbound, I can put in like a lot of work now and not get many results. But like long term, it'll be like exponential growth. Where I'll like in 2 years from now, I'll be putting in 3 hours of work in inbound per week, and I'll be making like 100K per month in sales just from inbound. So like
yeah,
I think
totally. Mhm.
I think outbound and paid ads are linear, so they're like good to like get you started like immediately. But then inbound is like the long-term play that you want to be like cooking constantly for like 2, 3 years, and eventually that's going to be your main source of appointments.
Yeah, no, totally. And I mean, the content that you have out there, you have a ton of content out there. Is that all? Are you doing most of that? Do you have an editor? Or how does that sort of work? Have you systematized that or?
Yeah, I've more or less, yeah. I have like short form editor, I have a long form editor, and I have like a graphic designer for like thumbnails and shit.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, I'm trying to, in terms of hiring, the way I see it is like for anything like to do with the business, I'm just kind of ranking it in what's the least leverage and takes the most time. And the least leverage and takes the most time is editing and is graphic designing. So those things I'm kind of outsourcing immediately. And then, eventually I'll outsource like the appointment setting, the sales calls, and then like kind of just outsourcing in ranks. Like I have like kind of ranked of least leverage highest time to highest leverage least time.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah, and it's cool that you see that, your Instagram is kind of like this system, right? This way of getting meetings. And I think a lot of people see it that way. Uh, but I see it as something bigger than that, right? Not just for meetings, but it's a way that people can connect with you and see you outside of just, business too. But yeah, it's cool that you have that view of it, that it's kind of like this vehicle that you're taking, right? So with your personal brand, where do you kind of see it going? Is it something that, you're just gonna keep as a system, or do you kind of want to expand, or I mean, what's your goal with it?
Well, it's always going to be like a system.
Mhm.
I actually think most people don't know what a system is. Systems are like actually pretty complex if you look into it. But I think it's always going to be a system, but it's going to be a system that grows exponentially. Like I said, paid ads and inbound are going to be linear, but inbound is going to be exponential. There's going to be a
Mhm.
point in 2, 3 years where I have like 10K, 20K subs, and like I'm going to constantly focus on keeping on growing it, and it's going to constantly be a vehicle for booking appointments. Like that's never going to stop. Obviously, as you said, you're completely right. It's like it's bigger than just booking appointments. I'm also like changing lives. I'm doing a bunch of cool stuff, and it's also a
Mhm.
lot more personal than just the business stuff, which
Yeah.
is great. But it is still like appointment, still a vehicle for booking appointments, and that's kind of the main way that I see it. Right? I want to have, I want to be systemizing kind of my everything that comes into contact with the business. So like the outreach stuff is a system, the same way that the inbound stuff is a system.
So what are you doing currently for outreach? Is it Instagram, ads? What other things are you doing?
For outreach right now, it's just called DM. So I'm doing Instagram, LinkedIn, school, and I'm trying to scale that. Is it's great and it's by far my biggest source of appointments. But long term, I know it won't be. I know long term school, well, not school, but like inbound in general is going to be the biggest source because, as I said, inbound exponential and then
Yeah.
outbound is linear. So right now, outbound and ads. I'm not running any ads right now, but right now outbound and ads are great, but long term, inbound is the big play.
Yeah, no, and I think everyone wishes they could have, a flow of inbound leads coming in, right? Because basically that's, a lot of ROI on your time, really, if you can just put out
Yeah.
content and then you look back and you can see all this content, right? Yeah, I mean it's really cool what you're doing. And so I guess going back to kind of your story, right? I know you said that you saw like the Hamza video, you saw the Imangazi video. Was there more to it than just that? Because I feel like for someone to take action, they have to have seen something, they have to have done something that you're kind of like, oh, I can actually do this, right?
I think that was the drive was like always there, like latent, like dormant, getting suppressed. But like it wasn't just like a flip switched. It was like a process where maybe I saw Hamza like 6 months before I started doing anything. It was definitely like a slow cook, like
Yeah,
constant feedback and kind of realizing where I was and realizing like where I want to be. Because even before I knew what the word entrepreneurship was, like I didn't like I had to look up what that word meant because I genuinely I had no clue.
yeah,
I like I didn't know what job I wanted, but I wanted something that paid a fuck ton of money. Like my goal was making
yeah,
like 500K per year, and like obviously that's a lot, especially like for someone who didn't even know about what business was. My goal
yeah,
was like 500K per year job. So I'd always been aiming high. I guess I technically did know what an entrepreneur was because like I remember in year two I had like a paper airplane shop outside my house. So day one entrepreneur.
yeah. Yeah, no,
Yeah.
I have similar stories like that. Just in elementary school here, it's just like when you're pretty young, I would always like be selling things and doing things like that, lemonade stands and that sort
Yeah.
of thing. But yeah, no, I see. It's definitely a slow process, and one of the biggest things that I see personally, and I see it in a lot of people, right? Where they'll be watching these videos, right? The Hamza videos, the Imam Gadzhi videos, and they're just constantly watching them. And I, used to be like that, right? Where I wouldn't really take much action. I'd be like, oh, that's really cool. I could do that. And then like put a day's worth of effort into it and then be like, maybe not for me. You know what I mean? And I guess that's partially shiny object syndrome, right? As entrepreneurs, we all have that, right? But it's definitely interesting that, it did take that process for you, right? It did take that time. I mean, how has your mentality changed, sort of since becoming an entrepreneur?
It's a great question. I think now looking back on it, the reason it took like 6 months is because of cognitive dissonance, right? I didn't want to do something that like isn't aligned with my identity. And
Mm,
so back then, I was, the video gamer, the fucking guy who smokes weed, like the guy who was being a bit of a loser. And so to do something that's out of alignment with that is going to cause pain because that's what cognitive dissonance is. And so the same way, like right now, I wouldn't smash my PC and go like run naked around Sydney. That's not something that aligns with my identity. But if I was a crackhead, maybe I would, right? So I think it's I don't set like income goals. Obviously, I do, but it's like I'm not trying to make, for example, like right now, 30K per month. I'm not trying to make 30K per month. I'm trying to become the person who can make 30K per month, and then by doing that, I'll make 30K per month as a byproduct.
so,
The the income is a byproduct. The main thing you need to be focusing on is like evolving yourself. And I didn't know that when I was like just starting out. But if I could go back to myself 2 years ago and just say become the person who can, then like that's like the one thing I would say because that's definitely the most valuable thing I could tell anybody right now is like it all comes down to identity. Like your actions are a result of your belief, which is a result of your paradigm, which is your paradigm is like your worldview and your identity. So it all comes back to your paradigm and your identity. If you can change that, then as a byproduct, everything else will change.
mm. Interesting that you see it as an identity thing. Yeah, no, because like for me, I feel like it was less of like I feel like it would align with my identity to do something like that, right? But it was kind of just taking that first step, right? That first, because once you get your feet wet, you're gonna get into it, right? You're gonna finally start rolling, right? It's the same thing with the gym. It's the same thing with a lot of things. Sort of once you get started, right, it gets rolling. Same thing with social media. Same thing with a lot of things, right? It's sort of a process that you get started in it, and it gets harder, but it gets easier at the same time in terms of mentally. Um, yeah, and I mean, I guess I've asked a lot of people that have come on the podcast this question. I'm gonna ask you it. What do you think about passion, working for your passion, something that you're passionate about, versus working for something that makes the most money? I know I kind of put you on the spot with that, but
No, it's okay. There's a quote. I don't know the quote exactly, so I'm gonna butcher it, but it's from Stefan Arnier, who like wrote the Hard Times to Create Strong Men, and it's something like when you're just starting out, money's all that matters because like you need to if you have dependents, you need to put money on the table and like maybe if I need to provide for my family, I need to retire my parents. First thing first is get money on the table, and then I would see working for your purpose and working like for your passion as a good thing. Like I think obviously purposeful work is where you're gonna get into a flow state and it's where you're gonna really love your work. Like right now, like me, it's so painful to work like 8 hours a day, and like I'm basically like putting my current paradigm into like PDF form and like video form for like from like
yeah.
my program. But I love it, even though it's painful. I love it because it's purposeful work. So I think like having work that aligns with the purpose is amazing, but it's a privilege. I'm
Mm,
only I'm if the best vehicle for you, maybe if the best vehicle right now is SMMA, that's not really like purposeful for you. If that's the best vehicle to make money, that's fuck your purpose right now. Focus on like putting food on the table. Focusing on like helping your family. If your family like needs help, if you have like kids, the first things first is like get cash flow, and then
yeah.
when you get cash flow, it makes sense. If you're at a point where you're at 80K per month with your agency and you're working on like 4 hours a week, you've systemized it properly, it's outsourceable, you've hired. If you can do that, like that, it's not as big of a jump as people might think, to get to that stage. And I think money first and the purpose. So like not in terms of priorities, but in terms of time. So as I
Mm,
said, if you have like dependents, you have to feed your family. You have
yeah.
to put money on the table. But then really, as soon as you can, I'm all for doing like purposeful work. I think like the idea of purpose is very true. Like the way of the superior man, it's like over there, it's right there behind me.
Yeah, no.
So yeah, I'm all for like doing purposeful work, 100%.
Yeah, no, I kind of agree with that, and it's interesting because everyone's giving me a different answer with that, right? So yeah, I'm gonna keep asking it, and we'll see where it goes with that. But it's definitely interesting that you say that you've got to get money first, right? And I sort of agree with that in a sense because I think that at first especially you need to make money, right? You need to provide, like you're saying, and once you get to a point where you feel like you're comfortable that you can invest in things, you can put yourself out there, maybe doing some other things, then you work into trying to do what you want to do, right?
Mm.
And yeah, I mean that's kind of my vision on it. Just getting to a point where like I feel like I can expand into something else, right? Maybe whenever that point is, I feel like I will know. But yeah. Um, so I mean, I guess going back to your starting agency, what exactly were you doing for gym owners and everything? Was it the typical SMMA or was it a little bit different?
It was very typical. So in terms of the service delivery part, it was more or less the same. So like I was doing like Facebook ads, go high level lead nurturing, database activation. I did a bit of like sales training as well, which is nice. Um, but the thing is, like gym niche is saturated. Saturation is fake. Facebook ads, lead nurturing, all that stuff is like saturated. That's not real. The only thing that can get saturated is your positioning, and your positioning is just like your offer. So how you position your services is what
Mhm.
your offer is. And so the reason I was able to like sign like clients for 960 per month, 1.5K per month, and like scale like decently 10K per month in Australian dollars, is because of positioning, right? If I came into, for example, the med spa niche and I was like, I'll get you 15 prepaid qualified appointments in 30 days you don't pay. Like, and then I send them that code DM, and then 700 people send them that exact same code DM. It's gonna be stupid.
Yeah.
They're gonna face classical conditioning, right? They've acted on, so obviously like the code DM is like the stimuli. They've acted on that stimuli before, and they've like had a bad experience. They acted on that stimuli, and then they had a bad experience, so they kind of associate
Or
that
resistant.
experience.
Yeah.
They associate that stimuli of that copy, for example, with the bad experience. And so you need to have different positioning and you need to have like different copy, right? So not just copy, but also like copies
Offer.
like yeah, copy's like a small part of it, but just
Mhm.
like the whole offer and the whole model in general. You can have the exact same service. I could do Facebook. Like, there's two agencies. They both do Facebook ads, lead nurturing, database activation for gyms. But if this guy's doing the same thing, this guy's doing he went on YouTube and he copy pasted the Guru script, and this guy understands like what actually makes a script good, and he's able to make his own scripts. He'll never face a point where like people have become numb to his offer.
Yeah, yeah, no. And it's interesting that you say that because especially on Instagram, right? I've faced a lot of people or heard a lot of people saying, "Oh, it's super saturated." And I do agree that there is a ton of people who have no idea what they're doing, sending DMs out there, right? And I'm sure these business owners, especially like even cold calling, are getting tired of sort of hearing the same thing over and over again. But I guess I mean you're right. It is definitely the angle that you take and the way that you position yourself, right?
Yeah, I
So I
mean,
guess,
like, sorry to cut you off, but
yeah, go ahead.
like if you look at like the demand and the supply, like in reality, there's still a big demand for all the services. Like there's so many local businesses, so many like e-com stores, whatever, that do need help getting more clients. And so in terms of like the business model is great. Like, there's a huge demand, which means you can command there's a huge demand, which means you can
Yeah.
command high ticket prices. So that's great. But doing the same thing that everybody else does is way gonna fail. Like as you said, like so many people get bored of hearing the same thing over and over. It doesn't mean the business model doesn't work. It means that positioning sucks because like it's that positioning is saturated, right? The niche isn't going to get saturated. The niche gets saturated where there's more supply than there is demand. But there's so much demand in like a big niche like the gym owners. Every gym wants more clients. So
Yeah.
this demand is great. It just comes down to the way that you position it, which is everything comes back to your offer. The offer is the 80/20 thing here.
Yeah. Yeah, no, definitely. And so you said you kind of started with the SMMA and then branched off into coaching. So what are you doing now in terms of coaching and like more in particular about what you're doing?
So yeah, it's like a one-to-one coaching system, and basically like working with beginner agency owners, helping them hit 10K per month. It's like 10K a month, 6 months, and then if you don't, like we practice what we preach. We have Grand Slam offer as well. So like if you don't hit 10K a month, it's like we give you all your money back that you paid. We give you an extra 3K USD just to say sorry, and we give you free coaching as we were doing until we hit 10K a month. So like you want to have that win-win offer where like if you join, you either hit 10K per month 6 months, or you get a full refund 3K and you still hit 10K per month. It just takes you a little bit longer. But like
Yeah.
that's like the offer, and the offer is going to be more or less the same with the school community that I'm going to launch in like April. But yeah,
Yeah.
that's what it looks like. We have like 9 clients, and we're only gonna take on a max of 15 because it's 1-to-1 with me. So yeah, it's going great, and yeah, I'm really excited with it.
So, would you say that most of the stuff that you're doing is sort of, creating the offer for them or working with them just with whatever they need?
Yeah, so it's like it's partially done for you, partially done with you, and
Mm.
so like perfect example is in the contract for like the guarantees is like the decided upon amount of like cold calls. I'm not going to tell you if you don't do 800 cold calls a day, you're not eligible for the guarantee. Obviously, that's not how it works. Like
Yeah.
we're hopping on calls, and like it's kind of on you. Like some people will like kind of be already there, and they already know what they're doing. So we just like implement the mindset stuff, implement the first principles that they need to kind of reframe the paradigm. The paradigm is once again it's like the 80-20 thing. It's so important, and then just get them on track and booking appointments. But if you're like if some people come in, they need more help, which is normally feel like you're a complete beginner, and so for like if you want if it's like the right option, like it's done for you in terms of like we'll hop on calls, we'll create your offer together. Obviously, like the one thing that maybe people want me to do, but it's the one thing I refuse to do is write copy for them because like
Okay.
if I'm writing a copy for your sales call, that copy is going to be authentic to me. Okay, so like if I'm writing it and you're saying it and it's authentic to me, when you say it, it's not going to sound authentic to you. You need to write copy that's like literally written by you and came out of your brain, so that it sounds authentic to you. And like the biggest thing that's going to fuck you up is a lack of authenticity. So
Mhm.
if you're on a call and saying like, hey, can you give me 30 seconds to pitch you, please? And like you're reading the exact script that Thomas Gannett posted
Yeah.
like a year ago. You're fucked, right? You want to
Yeah.
be authentic. So the frameworks, everything is there. But in terms of like the specific writing, I want you to do it. I'll be on call with you doing it, but I want you to do it because like I want you to be authentic, and that's ultimately maybe it's harder right now, but long term, that's actually what's going to get you way better results is being authentic.
Yeah, yeah, no, there's definitely something to be said for that. And I think there's also something to be said for tonality, right? And I don't know how much you emphasize that with your clients, right? But that's something huge when it comes to cold calls, when it comes to sales calls. And a lot of people kind of overlook that, right? I mean, if you're reading something and you're reading it and you just sound like a complete robot, then nobody's gonna really believe you. They're not gonna trust you, and that goes back to the authenticity thing, right? If you don't have the tonality, you're not speaking to them like they're another person, then there's no reason why they should trust you. And I mean, don't even think about buying, right? Because if they don't trust you, they're not gonna buy. So that's one thing that I would say when it comes to cold calls and sales calls,
Yeah.
right? Yeah. So you know, what would be the main focus with your community? Is it just to keep growing like the agencies, like you said, or is there something else with it?
Yeah, so it's the exact same thing as 1-to-1. So like
Okay.
just helping
Yeah.
beginner agency owners hit 10K per month, and then long term, like I'm not at 100K per month, so I can't teach you how to scale to 100K per month. But in the long
Yeah.
term, when I'm at that level, I'm gonna like there's gonna be like a back end like higher ticket product. But also, I really wanted to touch on what you were saying before in terms of conviction, and not
Mhm.
in terms of conviction, but in terms of the tonality. What I was gonna say is like tonality is so important, and really, there's one thing that you can do. It's kind of like a hack. There's one thing
Mhm.
that I've learned that basically autocorrects your tonality and like auto tunes it to the perfect tonality. And like, it sounds too good to be true, but there is one thing you can do, and it's actually very obvious. It's literally just conviction. Like the way that I see it, if I'm on a sales call, sure, I'm using like if I'm using incentive-based pricing, I'm bringing out their pain points, like I'm using like sales tactics and shit. I'm so fine with doing that, and I do that with the perfect tonality and extreme confident because I don't even see my sales call like it's called like a growth call. It's a sales call. I don't even see it as a sales call. I'm seeing it as a help call because I know if they're a good fit, the best thing that they can do is join the program, right? If they're a good
Yeah.
fit, the best thing they can do is join the program. I'm so happy to use incentive-based pricing to bring out their pain points to make them in pain in their current situation. I'm so happy to do that. and like I'm so convicted because I know like it's like if you go down to like the city, you see like a preacher, right? The preacher's like he's facing the public embarrassment, he's facing like shame from people walking by. He's so convicted in what he does that he's like okay with doing that. I learned this from Charlie Morgan. This is like a really cool tactic. But, like having that level of conviction where like you even though even though it's a sales call trying to sell you something, I'm seeing it as a help call because like that's the level of conviction you want to have in your product. And if you don't have that, if you don't have the level of conviction, you need to get a better product. Because if you can have that level of conviction, it literally auto tunes you. Like you don't even have to worry about like practicing your tonality. If you can be like, there is nothing more that I want than this work to you. I know that this is such a good fit that like I'm not gonna sleep tonight if I don't close you. Like if you can
Yeah.
have that level of conviction, it just automatically fixes your tone, bro.
Yeah. And do you do a two call close or a one call close?
One call.
One call.
Like
Interesting.
most people like do like one call to see if they're a good fit, and then the second call is like close and shit.
Yeah.
I don't because like I know long term, if I'm booking 20 meetings a day, first of all like the complexity of having two call close is going to be worse, but also most people do a two call close because there's a limiting belief that you can't close to one call. I've seen it firsthand. You can close like 6k LTV in terms of like cash up front on one call like
Yeah.
with no problem in 45 minutes, in one 45-minute conversation, in one 30-minute conversation, in one 20-minute conversation. Like look at there's a guy I've talked to him a bit, Arman Shaz. He makes like he's like 17. He's like, I don't know, I think he makes around 100k per month now, so he's crushing it.
Wow.
But like if you look at some of his older YouTube videos, I don't know if it's still up. I know he got like sued by someone, but it's like one call close like 15 to 20 minutes long, and it's like 3,500 up front, like with
Wow.
ease, 20 minutes. So it's the biggest thing, and this comes back to the paradigm stuff, bro. The biggest thing is beliefs. Like your beliefs become your realities. If you think you can't close on one call, you probably won't. If you think you can, and objectively the truth is you can, you can. You just need to like. This is why mentorship is so awesome because like imagine like 12 months ago you want to start an agency and like when you start you're like, oh, there's no way I can close, like if you charge them 1k up front, there's no way I can close 1k up front in one phone call. I need to have two, I need to have three. Like that's gonna fuck you up so much. And like if you can have a mentor that just like corrects your limiting belief, you just save 12 months in like a 15-second conversation. It's like so
Yeah.
powerful.
Yeah, no, and I totally do believe that it is possible to do the one call close, and I've seen people do it. I've seen it firsthand as well. And it's definitely, interesting when it comes to sort of like the strategy with it, right? It's basically the same thing, right? But the reason that I kind of go with the two call close is not necessarily because I don't think I can close them on the call there, is just because I kind of like the idea of, first of all, like you bring out all their problems, right? That's the idea with the first call, right? Figure out what they're doing, they're who they are really. And then from there, what I like to do is I kind of build out like a plan for them, right? So it's super individualized, super uh like exactly what they need. Right. So that's a little bit different than what some other people do. But that's the only reason I do a two call close, just to give me time to build out something that they might
Yeah,
need, right?
yeah.
Which is
It's like
yeah, go ahead.
I mean it's like the age old debate. It's like value versus pain. Like obviously you want to give a bunch of value so that it obviously helps the client, but then obviously a lot of people don't try to do this, but you want to keep the current situation painful. And so like two call close can work, and if you can get like a much better conversion rate in two call close than you do one call close, like 100%.
Yeah.
If it's converting better than you, if it's converting better, then like don't do one call close just because I said. Obviously do two calls, but like the thing that I see with two call is that number one is pain. Most people don't really understand how sales work and like the gap between the current situation, the desired situation, and like you need to create pain. There's two things to like make someone like take action is pain, because like the only reason humans take action is to alleviate pain. That's like the number one driver of human action is to alleviate pain. So obviously, if you want someone to take action, you have to create pain in the current situation, and then the vehicle to get them to the desired situation is your product. And so
Yeah.
you need to have pain in the current situation so that they want to take action to get to that future situation, and then they need to have confidence, which comes from your offer, your social proof, your conviction. They need to have confidence that your product is the right thing that's actually going to get them to where they want to go. So obviously, two call close can work, one call close can work, but from what I've seen, especially for my niche, like coaching consultant and for
Mhm.
agency owners, one call close has been working very well.
And that's another thing, right? It does depend on the niche, right? And another thing I've noticed, especially now that we're on the topic of sales calls, is how well you can relate to the people in your niche, right? So they
Mm,
want to
mm,
see you as an expert in the niche as well, right? You want to be using their terminology. You want to be using whatever, however you can relate to them. You want to make sure that you're doing that, right? So, maybe if you're going in the fitness trainer niche or whatever, right? You don't want to go in there and talk very formal and sort of you
yeah,
want to relate to them, right? You want to have that same sort of language that they're using, so they see you as someone who's been there and done that, right? Which is something definitely something we can go into. But
definitely,
yeah,
right.
that's
Like
one thing that I've noticed.
latent, like the way that like I define that is like latent conditions. So
Mhm.
like the way that they currently see stuff, and it's basically like the paradigm right now, which is it's kind of like a hack for me because like my niche is like me 12 months ago. So
Yeah,
the way that I see latent conditions is like it's like a radio and like you have to like tune it to like the specific if I'm in the gym niche, I have to tune it one way to like I have to like say different things and if I'm in like the agency niche, I have to like tune it a different way and like if I can tune it properly, then I connect to the radio tower and that's like me like them being related to me. Or or like drilling for oil. Like if I'm like drilling for oil like in the ground and shit, like there's gonna be parts like I have to have the understanding of my niche to know where to drill. And I kind of like drill into their mind and find like the latent conditions. And that's gonna be a lot easier for me because I was in the niche. So I already know exactly where to go. It's like yeah, it's kind of overpowered. Like
yeah,
for most people, if you're in the gym niche, you're in the med spa niche, you have to go like do niche market research, and obviously I still do that, but I have like a leg up against everybody. That's why the most successful gym agencies come from previous gym owners. The most successful like coaches for marketing agency owners come from like former marketing agency owners.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah, for sure. And I guess, with that as well, it's not just, talking to them, it's also knowing, right? And understanding. Because I think there's a difference between just saying certain things that, might sound good, but it's also knowing, right? And understanding. Because I know I'm sure many of the people watching this have also watched a bunch of sales calls where, people, they might not know exactly about the niche, right? And then there's other cold calls where you can instantly, like off the bat, just tell that that person knows what they're talking about, um, and they know exactly how to almost push the buttons, right? To make
Yeah,
sure that the other person knows that they have that sort of expertise, which is interesting, right? And that instantly creates trust, and it makes it a lot easier to close someone, right? They trust you a lot more. Okay,
mm,
so now I kind of want to ask you another question that is kind of unrelated to this. I know you said your ideal client is yourself 12 months ago, right? And I like to think that my ideal audience is someone like myself, around the same time, maybe a little bit less than 12 months ago, but still, that's what I like to think of my ideal audience is. What would you tell someone that was like your ideal client, right? You 12 months ago, what would you tell yourself?
I would tell them two things. The first thing is a bit vulgar, but I would just tell them like don't be a pussy. Like there's gonna be shit that you have to do that maybe you don't want to do. Just don't be a pussy. And like if something's objectively like it's like on the path towards your success, just do it. Like just yeah, number one, just don't be a pussy. And then number two is understand. Like when I started, I don't give a fuck about the mindset shit. I thought it was like I just want the script. I want like the best converting script. All that matters is that. Don't be stupid. 80% is the mental models, the mindsets, and like the first principles. So like first principles is just like core understandings that cannot be further questioned. So stuff like, if I the thing I would tell my younger self is go read a textbook on evolutionary psychology. Because like evolution in biology is going to tell you everything that you need to know about Facebook ads. Like if I want to learn Facebook ads, forget about Facebook. Go look at nature. Go look at how things evolve. Go look at natural selection, and that'll teach you more about like Facebook ads than like a Facebook ads guru can ever tell you. Like go read a fucking evolution textbook and like focus on something called interdisciplinarity. And so that basically means using different disciplines to aid this discipline. So obviously the discipline we're in is like business, using psychology, using biology, using systems thinking, using evolution, using like virology, using like a different disciplines and like using the principles from those disciplines like economics and stuff like that in the discipline of business. That's going to be the biggest needle mover, and that's what I found. Like using like for if I'm testing a code DM system, I'm using the scientific method, right? I'm literally using the scientific method if I'm testing a system. And just understanding what a system is, right? Like systems theory and systems thinking is a big discipline, and it's
Yeah.
really hard to grasp your head around. Like if you come onto the scene and like you've seen someone use the word system, you don't know what a system is yet. Like you have to actually like the shit is like so complex. And then like I think another thing I would say is like if you think you're smart, you're not. Like there was like a period of time like a month ago where like I kind of understood what systems were. Like I understood like a basic level of what systems were, and then like I saw one thing and it blew my mind completely. Like I saw like this one post about transdisciplinarity, which is like a whole fucking different thing, and like it kind of made me realize how stupid I am. Like there's like levels. Like you're just a beginner, and you probably have like the Dunning-Kruger effect, so you think you're smart, and then you realize you're dumb, and then you think you're smart again, but then you get access to more information. You realize, fuck, I'm so dumb. And then you think you're smart again, and that loop just continues. Like constantly being in that student mindset, like you always have something to learn. Like maybe even like when I started, I already felt like I was smart. I knew what I was doing. I knew like how the world works. You don't, and I'm sure that me right now, I have no clue how anything works. Like I'm a lot more like I have a lot more humility than I did 12 months ago, and 12 months ago I was the idiot compared to where I am right now. So like the student mindset, the 80/20 is the first principles and the mindset and the paradigm stuff. That's what really matters is your identity, and stop being a pussy.
Okay. Yeah, no, that's super interesting. All the different things that you're talking about in terms of biology and evolution and looking at that sort of, and it puts you in a different perspective, right? And I always mention this on a lot of the podcasts that I've done. But that's part of the reason that I do this podcast in the first place, right? Is to get people like you on, and then you just, open my mind to new possibilities. And I mean, I know maybe for you, you're 16 or about to turn 17. I'm 17. It's I don't know anything, right? I like to think of it as that, right? I have no clue what's going on, right? I'm just here to learn as much as I possibly can. And that's the main idea with this podcast. Have people on who have interesting stories, interesting takes, and just different perspectives. Because at the end of the day, right, I can learn something from anybody, right? And that's the goal, right? So yeah. I mean, we have been going for a little bit now. I mean, is there anything you would like to say to the audience before we wrap it up?
Let me think, because this is really important. What should I say? Um, I would definitely say, as I've been preaching this whole fucking podcast, 80% mindset, 80% paradigm. Like your goal, if you're a beginner, you want to get 10K per month. The goal isn't 10K per month. The goal is the identity and becoming the person who can make 10K per month. And then
Mhm.
by kind of evolving into that person, you get 10K per month as a byproduct. And you have your current self, you have your desired self, right? To become the desired self, you have to kill your current self. Now, obviously, don't kill yourself, but like you have to kill the identity. You have to kill the current identity. And as you know, it's a natural thing that's evolved. It has a survival bias, right? And so your current self has a survival bias and it wants to live. And so when you're doing the activities that kind of turn you into the future self, you're gonna face pain because that's your current self kicking and screaming, trying to survive. And the only weapon you have to fight against the pain is the work, and like the
Mhm.
work is gonna bring you to that desired self. So like pain times work equals like the path. So like the pain is the compass. Don't like hide away from like the painful shit. Like this is exactly what I want to tell my younger self. Don't hide away from the painful things. The pain is the compass. Look
Mhm.
towards what gives you the most pain. Like for me, when I was studying, I didn't want to do cold calls. I was doing cold DMs, I was doing cold emails, I was doing cold SMS to get away from cold calling. Then I realized pain is the compass. The number one thing that you're scared of doing right now is like for me probably like the biggest thing I've felt pain recently doing is like starting building the V2 program because I knew like how much it's gonna suck. The number one thing that you're scared of doing right now is going to be the number one thing that gives you the most growth and moves you closer to your success. Because that's your current self kicking and screaming, trying not to die. So figure out what you face the most resistance towards. It's probably going to be cold calling if you're watching this and you have an agency. You're gonna think, oh, it's that thing, but then there's gonna be something deep down that you don't want to admit that's like scaring you. Like figure out what that is and attack it with like monastic focus. Make like you should be bathing in pain. Like you should be waking up, going to your desk, pain, because that's pain is a compass and pain is petrol. You need to follow the pain if you want to grow into the person that makes 10K per month. And if by doing that you'll hit the tank every month. So number one thing, pain is petrol and follow the pain.
Awesome. Yeah, that's not the first time I've heard that, and it kind of reminds me of this quote. I hope I don't butcher it. But the magic you're looking for is in the work that you don't want to do. I'm pretty sure it
Exactly.
goes like that. And that's a quote that really resonates with me, and I think that's a good note to leave the viewers on the podcast with. So again, this is Matthew Johnson. I'll link his social medias will be in the description of this video. You guys can go check him out, and we'll see you in the next edition of the Truth Talk podcast. See you.